everybody, and welcome to this magical spoiler review for episodes 6 and 7 of Willow, brought to you by the
Geek
Buddies. Hey! Well, we're back again after a little bit of a 2-week break because of the holidays. So happy New Year to everybody. We hope you had a wonderful Christmas. For those who are only watching our Willow reviews, happy New Year and Merry Christmas. Hope you had a good time. We're in 2023 now, and we've got episode 6, Prisoners of Skellin, and episode 7, Beyond the Shattered Sea, to talk about. Look, a lot of people enjoyed episode 6. A lot happened in episode 6, going into the mountain of the trolls. The trolls were very eloquent and well-spoken here, having conversations with this entire crew. We get more of the development of the relationship with Kit and Jade. Certainly Kit and Elora Danon become now their issues, or Kit's really issues with Elora from the beginning, start to come really to the forefront here over these next 2 episodes, leading to a moment where they Thelma and Louise themselves off the cliff to the cliffs of nowhere, down into this waterfall situation and into the Immemorial City. Airk is there at Immemorial City, starving, dying, being tortured in essence. This woman named Lily shows up, and all of a sudden they develop this kind of sassy relationship, and it could be the crone in disguise. That's so unsettling. All of that going on here, and also Boorman and Alagash, and a Christian Slater appearance we get in episode 6 with a noble sacrifice that he makes by the end, and more with Willow and Elora Danon as well, and more with Graydon, who apparently has this gift to shoot magic now and also talk to the animals like Dr. Doolittle here. So much going on with all of these characters as we go throughout these next 2 episodes, 6 and 7. We are not going to go nitty gritty beat by beat, but I want to give a general overview of what happens in these 2 episodes as we lead to the finale that's happening next week. So Michael, you have kept us on this quest, the 3 of us. So please tell us your thoughts here after episode 6 and 7, what you thought of these 2 episodes.
Well, I said we were going to do them all, and we're going to do them all. But I got to tell you, I think it's an interesting, watching Willow is an interesting sort of like macro look at like geekdom. Okay. Like we say this all the time on Geek Buddies. Like, we are so lucky right now. We have an MCU. We have a DCU. We're gonna have a new DCU. We're gonna have a new DCU soon. We've got the Star Wars universe. We got a new Indiana Jones movie coming out. We got Lord of the Rings on TV. Like, we got House of the Dragon. Game of Thrones is back. Like, there's so much great stuff out there. But part of being a geek, and part of what has always been a part of being a geek, is loving something when it's good, but also loving something when it's bad. And finding the things that you like in it. And Willow has been a slow process of like being on board, realizing that it's not really what you wanted it to be, but still being on board. And now with these last 2 episodes, me being like, guys, I love you and I love this world, but I really don't even know what we're doing. I have lost the thread, and I'm not quite clear on some of these choices that you're making. And what went from being okay, here's a fun concept, to I really like the concept, the execution is leaving something to be desired, I feel like for me in these last 2 episodes has veered into the lack of good execution is now hurting the underbelly of the good story that was there to begin with. Like, I am like, we could go into the details of it, but like between the trolls and the Christian Slater's here, but then he's gone, and Graydon's magical flute that we only just found out about, and like there's just so many things where I'm just like, okay, these were some choices. There's still some lovely moments, and I still sort of want to see where things end up, but I just feel like this show seems like it kind of just doesn't really know where it wants to go episode by episode. So you kind of get like an interesting character arc in a fit, and then it kind of goes in a different direction, but then they go back to where they were before, and there's fits and starts of good story all over the place, but it just seems very, very uneven throughout.
Yeah, I will say that. I mean, there's an earnestness to this show that I really like. I mean, do I like all of the acting? Not all of the time. I think that some of these actors or actresses don't quite get to that emotional beats here, and it veers between CW and something more serious the whole time. And nothing there's anything wrong with CW. There's some good acting going on, I know, but there's a level you expect from a CW show versus when you go a little bit higher in terms of the emotional stakes here. And I don't think they 100% get there, but I like that there's a real dedication to these characters, a real dedication to what they want to bring forward, but it doesn't 100% get there. And I do think some of these reviewers are doing a disservice by trying to overlook the negative and really just focus on the positive, because that to me is almost like, well, you did a good job, Johnny. You really did a nice, and you're not really actually helping Johnny get better at what he's trying to do. And so when I'm watching this show, I love the bones of it. I love a little bit of the flesh, but when it all comes together, I don't 100% like the look of it. And that's what strikes me when I'm watching these last two episodes. And I liked episode 6. And episode 7, I thought is getting some unfair criticism, in my opinion, but there is legitimate criticism to have about episode 7 as a bit of a setup for this finale, kind of the waves coming back into the ocean before they come crashing down. Shannon, your thoughts here on episode 6 and 7 now of Willow as we're on the precipice of this finale next week?
I think you can probably isolate some performances, you can isolate some sequences, and you can isolate some moments and have some really good stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, this is good, this is good, this is good. When you try to put them all together, they don't all quite fit. It's trying to make a puzzle out of 4 different puzzles. So the things that work keep me in it. Also, the fact that we've made the decision to see this to the bitter end, that's keeping me in it as well.
I hate watching it though, right? I don't think any of us are hate watching.
I'm not hate watching it.
No. I'm not hate watching it, but we made a commitment.
That's true.
I don't get any glee from the things that take me out of it. Right. It's just sort of like, okay, that took me out of it. And again, if another reviewer, if the things that are bothering us are not bothering them, fantastic. Like I love that they're loving that show. There's only a problem in a movie if it takes you out of it, or a film or a television show. Otherwise, like we talk about some wonky effects or a wonky acting moment. If that doesn't bother the individual, then it's not an issue. Like they're able to ingest this this entertainment and enjoy it. There were some really curious choices. There are some of the actors, like one of the actors by episode 7, I'm kind of like, God, I don't know if this was the writing or if this was you, but I'm like, you are getting to a place that I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get on board. If you have 8 episodes, you shouldn't get on board with someone in episode 7. Like they should be able, you want to connect with someone's performance earlier than that. There's some fantastic production design choices in this. I mean, I think watching the trailer with Tony Revolori and the Mudmander, like that moment, I'm like, God, that's what I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to get something a little more fairy tale, a little more almost like 80s Henson, the fact that you're using a practical puppet. I was like, God, I wish we would have gotten something like this earlier. The Geico caveman troll, didn't necessarily work for me. I can see on paper where it was really funny. But yeah, that kind of Gremlins 2 moment when this, very refined accent comes out. I'm like, okay. Like the way you established this with the movie, like I get that, surprises can happen. It just was not, the execution just wasn't quite there for me. But again, I love getting together with my buddies and chatting about a show where we all seem to be on the same page.
Yeah, Mike, did you want to add something more to what Shannon was saying here?
No, I just think, and we'll get into the details of it, but I think, when I was a kid, I probably learned more about storytelling by watching the things that took me out of it, as Shannon says. Like when you watch a great movie, you're like, oh, fuck, that was a great movie, but you were in it. Like when I go see Terminator 2 in theaters, I'm like, I'm not necessarily breaking down the story in my mind because I'm just like, holy shit, what a ride. It's like the 3rd, 4th, 8th, 9th, 12th time I watch it that I start really breaking it down and seeing how it worked. When you're watching a movie or a TV show where things really take you out of it, you do sort of go, well, why didn't that work? Or maybe just me, but like if you are a creative minded person, like you go, well, why didn't that work? Like I like this. This is an interesting idea. There's nothing wrong with this idea on the face of it, but what is not working? And so as a kid, I learned a lot about storytelling by those things. And so I think to Shannon's point, it's similar here. I think Shannon also makes a really good point with that mud creature or whatever, is that I think a lot of episodes 6 and 7 suffers from really good ideas that you're shoving in the very end of the season. That there's all these things coming up now, like Graydon's magic flute and this awesome practical effect and all these things, and like you're like, well, okay, but had you front loaded some of these things, and I include a lot of the character dynamics here, had you front loaded a lot of this and let it play out, I just feel like we had like 4 episodes at the beginning where things kind of moved pretty slowly to get where we were going. And then you get to these last episodes and you're like, all right, it's the Bone Reavers, it's the Trolls, it's the Shattered Sea. And you're like, well, I would have spent a couple episodes at any of these. Put me in an enchanted forest, put me in a troll mountain, put me on the Shattered Sea for a couple episodes and let these things really breathe and develop. And that could have been really nice.
Yeah, I agree. You know, even in the episode 6, we get Scorpia looks to be part of the crew here, and she's there and has this moment with Boorman, but also has this moment with Jade where she says, when this is all over, you got to decide, you know, who your family actually is. Is it us, biological, and the Reavers, Bone Reavers, or is it with Kit and what she's got going on there, knowing that you were stolen and taken in there to avoid a war? In essence, you being a special child in a different way than Elora did, and you have to make that decision. And then Scorpia, who's had this noble instinct to go and try to save as many of these people as we can. We don't see her again. It's like, boom, you're gone. See ya. Okay, I guess we're not going to watch what you did or what you try to do to free the people who are being taken by these trolls. And we do have a very brutal moment there where she said, my God, I didn't know they needed this many people or they were stealing this many people. That's a dark moment. Let me see more of that. Let's go there. Let's see what this is. Let's have. But no, we got to have Alagash. We got to have Christian Slater. 1980s, 1990s Christian Slater stuck in a cage there, doing the things, pretending to be Mad Mardigan, and then of course what that all leads to, and then Boorman and Alagash accusing each other of turning on Mad Mardigan, and we still don't get a resolution of who actually betrayed Mad Mardigan, the full truth of it all. So yeah, Michael, what you were going to say?
No, I say, well, the trolls, like, so just on the trolls a little bit, as just a specific example.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with having a bunch of trolls that talk like they just got done doing the Taming of the Shrew at the Globe Theater. Like, that's fine. But if you're gonna do that, the two big things here are like, you can't just make a choice and just do it in a vacuum. As Shannon said, like the movie Willow, which we are keying off of, the trolls looked like vermin. They were crawling around a castle. The whole idea of what the trolls were is it's like when rats infest a castle, except it's trolls, which is worse. And they were just kind of these like monstrous creatures. So to all of a sudden go here and go, no, they all talk like Ian McKellen. So you're like, okay, but like there's a you gotta get me there. Like you gotta show me a couple trolls like the trolls in the first movie, and then have the lead troll come in and being like, oh, these guys, like they're always getting out or whatever. So you gotta let me go, oh, okay, I understand contextually where they exist. And then to your point about Scorpia, she's like, I never knew they needed this many people.
Yeah.
And I just sat there kind of going, for what though?
Yeah,
like,
right. Just to build this liquid? What is the liquid?
You've put me in this troll mountain, and you've told me that the trolls, who are all much smarter than I thought they were, are kidnapping way more people than we thought.
Yeah.
But what they're doing and why they're doing it doesn't actually ever, and the reason it doesn't ever rise to the surface is because the writers have forced themselves into a position of, well, we got to wrap up this Scorpia thing. We've been building up to this Boorman thing, so we've got the Alagash thing, but also Kit has the Mad Mardigan thing, and also we got to get him to the Shattered Sea, and Elora needs to do. So you don't have enough time to even tell me what the trolls are doing because you're trying to service 18 other storylines. But like the trolls in particular really represent to me in a very specific way, sort of the bigger issues that the show is having is they want this sort of let's be a little tongue-in-cheek with fantasy, let's have a little bit of fun with expectations, which is all valid and fine and really good, but they're just kind of hurling things against the wall and going, hey, what'd you think? And they're not really fitting it into either tying it back to Willow from the 80s or giving me context in the new series of like, I still don't know what these trolls are fucking doing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the complaints that people had with Book of Boba Fett, right? They were like, oh, no, the Kenobi series, when they were like, well, wait a minute, is this Moses Ingram's story or is this Kenobi's story? What's going on here? And the same thing's happening here. It says Willow, but I'm spending way more time with all these other characters and the stuff that they're doing. And there's some kind of issue with Willow being a fake or not a fake, which comes up right at the end, right as they're on the precipice of the waterfall there. All of a sudden, it's the almost famous plane sequence where everyone is just telling their truths right off the bat there, right at the end. And then they're all just going to turn around and go back. It's like, what the fuck? Who is leading this thing, for God's sakes? There's got to be one person who is adamant about where we need to be. It can't just change leadership every single time, depending on what scene we're dealing with. So it's just kind of frustrating, the inconsistencies sometimes character-wise or story-wise that went on over these next 2 episodes, even though I loved being in the mountain. I actually didn't have a problem with the trolls speaking the way they do, but I think you're both 100% right. They didn't lay the groundwork for it to make that moment or make that issue be something that is interesting to see in this whole story. And the fact that Alagash has been there for 10 years and we don't even spend enough time finding out what that experience was like for him for 10 years. We're just immediately like, it's a Mad Mardigan situation and there's something going on. And Kit being like, are you going to torture me or not? Like, it's no big deal. And so the stakes are always undercut by the fact that there's sarcasm and quipping going the whole time. You never quite feel the stakes. And then when they do bring the stakes in, you're like, we were just quipping and making sarcasm. And there's a way to do that. It just isn't 100% being carried out in a way that makes sense or feels connectable or honest in as you're watching it. So it can get sometimes a little bit frustrating for sure. Shannon, any final issues with the trolls? I want to jump into the storylines. Anything more you want to say on the trolls?
Well, it's just more just tonal whiplash.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, tonal whiplash.
Because at one moment, again, we're basing off the movie where they are, as Vogel said, vermin, these monsters. And then suddenly there's a society. They wear this sort of protective gear when they're marching around the mines. Like it just doesn't quite make sense. Like, it made me think of the smart gremlin from Gremlins 2. Like I wish there had been that moment where one of the trolls kind of justified, like, hey, yeah, I can talk, and yeah, they're not. This is what we're doing here. Like, because I do think that's a funny moment when you sort of subvert expectations.
Yeah.
You're expecting this, ravenous clan of beasts, and one comes out with, perfect, Queen's English. Yeah. And there's other stuff, but let's get into that.
Yeah, let's get into the storylines here, and let's focus on Kit, because certainly Kit has 2 strong storylines going on. Her love for Jade, how that has developed, and because obviously she was snatched away as Jade and her were about to kiss at the end of episode 5. So now she's in this situation with Willow captured. But then this issue with Elora Danan comes to the forefront in episode 6, where she says to her, do the things that you're doing because, I'm so sick of it that my father chose you over me all the time, which, as Michael pointed out, just comes out of nowhere. Now, it makes sense logically, like, that someone would feel this way. But the fact that you haven't hinted at it for 5 episodes and you drop it near the end of episode 6 and then it's resolved by the end of episode 7, it just feels a little like, and then Kit going on with Jade. And I'm going to tell you, Erin Kellyman is doing the Lord's work in this series. Her and Tony Revolori I can't remember the actor's name who plays Boorman. They're doing fantastic work here, but there's just an imbalance at times when you're seeing these moments, because Erin Kellyman's screaming for Kit when Kit falls through that surface lava down there into the water is real emotion that Erin Kellyman is.
When she falls through the creme brulee.
Sure, the creme brulee. Yes, the flan. When she falls through the flan, you see her real emotion coming through as well that I think is powerful. And Revolori too. I liked him trying to kind of have this conversation with Elora about his feelings for her as they're walking through the Troll Mountain, and her saying this isn't the right time. But anyway, we're focusing on Kit. Sorry. So what did you guys think about how they laid this all out leading up to Kit jumping off the waterfall with Elora Danan? Did this feel kind of shoved in, or did it feel organically correct? And what do you think about the developing relationship with her and Jade? Mike, I'll go to you first.
So to be fair to the show, this whole Elora Danan, I'm jealous of her, Mad Mardigan was protecting Elora Danan, they did establish it earlier on in the season. It was there. But to your point, what this show really suffers from is it keeps hopping around and characters aren't staying consistent. Kit, for example, isn't doing anyone any favors, because is this season, is this 8 episodes about Kit's relationship with her dad?
Yeah.
Kit's relationship with Jade? Or Kit and Elora Danan? And you could argue that Kit's relationship with her dad and the Elora Danan thing are kind of the same, but we spend so much time with the Kit and Jade of it all, and, oh, well, mom made you fight with me, and you're actually the better fighter, but you were pulling your punches, and da-da-da-da-da. And then we don't really get a lot. And also with the Elora Danan stuff, Kit was the one in the second episode that didn't really buy into the Elora Danan stuff. I don't believe in this. I'm not into it. And if you had kept her there, great. But then they made her be the one that saw the bush that Elora Danan made bloom. And in the Nockmaar episode, when Graydon was possessed, it was Kit who went up to Elora Danan and said, I believe in you. You can do this. You have the magic. So if you do that at the Nockmaar episode, you don't get a do-over 3 episodes later. Like, you've got to keep this character, and when you only have 8 episodes, Kit has to sort of be not on the Elora Danan train,
right,
until she's on the Elora Danan train at the cliff before they jump over the edge. That is a smooth arc. But going, I'm not into Elora Danan, I believe in you, Elora Danan, I'm mad at you, Elora Danan, nope, we're good, Elora Danan, is just not as satisfying, to your point. Yeah. You just kind of go, okay, well, I thought, but you were the one who told her about the bush.
Yeah. And you were supporting her 2 episodes ago, now you're against her again? Like, it's too confusing.
Yeah, so it's just like, you need to sort of, and the other thing that you try and do when you're doing something like with a character like Kit, where you have this bigger kind of Mad Mardigan, Elora Danan thing, and the Jade thing, is you sort of try and marry those things together. So, for example, and I think they tried to do this, like when Kit went into that treasure room and saw her dad's sword and heard her dad's voice, and then Jade and Elora Danan both pulled her out.
Yeah.
But then Kit had no issue with Jade and was only mad at Elora Danan. And maybe it would have been better if, like, oh, she had gotten mad at Jade and said, oh, well, you're on Elora Danan's side and it's you 2 against me, and she made peace with, but like, there's a lot of ways they could have done it. And so, I mean, this is a long-winded way of saying, again, this show has great intentions and it's very earnest, and the ideas that they're dealing with are great. Mad Mardigan's daughter feeling abandoned by her father because he disappeared and she doesn't know what happened, and she kind of feels like he was more focused on this legend of Elora Danan than her, is all gold. It's all great stuff, and they get there in fits and starts. It just doesn't quite flow in the way that you're like, here's where she was at the beginning, here's where she was in the middle, here's the crescendo, here's where she lands. And that's kind of what you want in a story.
Yeah, and why isn't there conversation, or why isn't there more conversations between Kit and her mom about the situation? You know, we've conveniently left the queen out of this whole thing right after the opening episode or 2. She's not. Why aren't there flashback conversations where she's like, why is dad always gonna, like, there's stuff that could have been added to lay a little more groundwork to all of this. But I think you make an excellent point, Mike. She should have been mad at Jade as well, because Jade dragged her out of that. And by the way, shout out to Jack Kilmer, Val Kilmer's son, who came in to voice over Val Kilmer there in that sequence. So just like he did in Val, if you've seen that documentary. Mike, I'm sorry, Shannon, what are your thoughts on the Kit storylines here as they played out over these 2 episodes here, 6 and 7?
Well, listening to you all break it down, it seems like the easy fix, instead of Kit seeing all this stuff with Elora Danan, is it should have been Jade. Jade should have seen the bush. Jade should have been the one to say, I believe in you. And from Kit's point of view, everyone that I love is obsessed with this person.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, I think that would have been a
that is exactly how you take. Yeah, that's exactly how you take kind of two, when a character has sort of two different things going on in a story, marrying them together so that it all kind of comes together and wraps up in a neat bow. That is one way that you could do it that would have, I think, helped them a lot.
100%. And then that scene where they're training, where she says, "Don't hold back." That scene takes a whole nother could be a whole nother. You could interpret it, or you could present it in a whole nother way, where Kit's like, "Oh, enough is enough," and then they have a fight about it with the swords that leads to this coming together at the end, which was sweet and kind of hot, to be honest with you, where they're making out. I'm not going to deny that. It's very hot where they're making out there, which it's okay. It's great. You want that feeling that where they like come together and make up in that moment now has more weight to it. So that when she does jump over the waterfall with Elora, there's a reason behind it all that she's come to terms with Shannon. That's a great fix.
Well, and it addresses your flashback. I mean, having those flashbacks with Sorsha being like, what is so special? And it's not just her, it's Airk as well. Like, why is everyone so obsessed with this person? Like, I mean, it seems like that would have been a more effective way to go.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's move on to Elora, Dan, and well, actually, you know what? Let's take a quick break, and then we'll move on to the rest of the storylines here right after this.
Still a banger score.
Not using that score. Not using that score. Driving me crazy.
All right, let's move on to the Elora Danon storylines here. Elora Danon having stuff going on with Graydon. Graydon, like a dude at that age who is not really well schooled in when to bring up emotional conversations, trying to have a conversation about their relationship as they're walking through Troll Mountain and not knowing what's going on there. We see her have come to terms. She loses the wand trying to save Jade, which I think could have worked even more so in Shannon's fix here. The fact that she would lose something so valuable and precious trying to save someone like Jade makes their connection even stronger. So we saw that going on there. We see her having the back and forth with Willow throughout episode 6 as well. When they're in the Troll Mountain, they end up down there on the flan or the creme brulee, and she finds her wand, and it's Willow who tells her to go ahead and do it, and she accesses everything and she does it. And then we go into episode 7, and Graydon reveals his feelings for her, tells her where he's at, says, "Look, I love you, but I know you're in love with someone else. It's cool, but loving you made me a better person," which is a really sweet scene, to be honest with you. Very emotionally healthy scene there between them in that interaction. But then we see her training with Willow, and she accesses the crone to eventually get the best of Willow. By the way, some of that framing and cinematography in the shoot, I actually liked it. Even though it looks staged and is probably at one of those lots, I still liked the way it was shot. And so their training sequences worked really well. And we see Elora's hair turning red, and she's coming into her power. She's coming into her confidence. She snaps back at Kit in ways that she hadn't before in episode 7. And they have their back and forth. Even tells Kit, "It ain't your business what's going on with me," to kind of push her back a little bit. And of course, Kit claps back herself. But then it all leads to Kit and Elora having this come to Jesus moment with each other, leading to that moment where they jump off the cliff, then end up in Immemorial City and come upon Airk, who comes out looking like he's just had a nice haircut and a shower. So Shannon, your thoughts on the Elora Danon stuff here with Graydon and with Kit as it leads to that ending in episode 7.
Well, Ellie Bambe's performance, I have not been a big fan of, and I think it's probably actually the writing. I think the way that they present the Dove character, which they're trying to do a little 3-card Monty, and by the end of the episode, like, we know she's Elora Danon. I think they made her just a little too silly at the beginning, like talking about my muffins. I think did a disservice to the arc. I think if you play her more of an innocence and you take out some of those kind of sillier comic moments, I think you get a stronger arc, that you have someone who looks like they need protection, becomes the protector. And I think that's the writing. I don't think there was any way for Ellie Bambe to deliver the dialogue that she was given other than to deliver it like they wanted it to be a joke. And so it came out as a joke, not a particularly good joke. But I like where we get to at the end. I mean, I feel like there are big moments that are not being exploited to their maximum capacity. I think when her hair turns red, that needed to be a moment.
Yeah, you needed to see that. You need to see why that happened and the reaction to everybody.
Yeah, because that's big. Like, you know, if she's doing the training, they're locked in whatever, and that, sort of energy, joust with Willow, where you see her hair suddenly turn red, like it shakes off this, who she used to be. I think that's a big moment, and I don't know if we're actually going to get to this, so I just want to throw this in as well. Yeah. The reveal of the Chimerian Cuirass. We've talked about this MacGuffin and how special it is, and Christian Slater grabs it, and like to the point that I'm like, oh, that's not it. Like, that can't be it, because it's not presented well. It's literally like he just grabbed this thing. Like, I didn't realize it was it until episode 7 when Boorman's got it on and he sticks the Lux Arcana, and I'm like, wait, that was it? Are we sure? I mean, even if it's not, even if it is, again, another 3-card Monty where it's like the Chimerian Cuirass was inside you all along, like, you still have to do the bait and switch better. Like, you have to present it like this is something. So I think, going back to Elora Danan, like, I do like where we get to. Like, by the end of episode 7, I'm into it. I mean, I don't know how many different directors that they had, but it feels like between the different directors with the writing staff, it feels like not everybody was on the same page, because you do get these great moments. You get glimpses of what the show could have been versus what we're actually getting.
Okay. Mike, your thoughts here on what Shannon said, but also overall where we went with Elora Danan over these next 2 episodes. And if you want to chime in on the Chimerian Cuirass and your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think as far as Elora Danan, I mean, look, I love the story. I love a story. I mean, it's like, I know we all disagree on this, but I love going against expectations. I love Rey being a nobody in Last Jedi much more than I like her being Palpatine's granddaughter. I love the idea of this child of prophecy who was going to save the world and be the most magical thing in the world being like, I don't fucking want this. This is not what I signed up for, and I have no idea what to do, is a great story to tell. And I think that the broad strokes of her being raised in secret, her hair is blonde, she steps into her own. I agree that, like, I think she has some really great moments, particularly in episode 7. I like where we get to with her. Yeah. I just think that the road getting there, and I'm really, the more that we look at it, I really think this Nockmaar episode just fucked them up. Because you really, it's the same, and I liked the Nockmaar episode.
Yeah, a lot of people liked it. Yeah.
But when you look again, you have the same problem with Elora Danan that you have with Kit. This whole thing is about Elora Danan not having any idea what to do, Willow being like, here's how you're supposed to do magic, and that's not working for her, and she needs to come into her own. But you build to the Nockmaar episode where she rolls up in there and basically, like, goes on instinct and sucks all the evil out of Graydon, and that should have been the red hair moment. That's a huge magical moment that she has. And point. Then, but like once she does that, they never really address it. They never really have Willow say, fuck, you really did amazing there. They kind of just in the next episode revert back to, all right, Elora Danan, you've got to figure this out. And she's like, but I don't know. And I'm like, you just did crazy. You just did magic beyond anything Willow has ever done in his entire life. And that should be addressed. But they don't address it, so then you sort of do the same thing that you do with the Kit storyline, where you sort of dip back into, oh, well, I don't really know what's going on. And then you get to the creme brulee moment at the end of the Troll episode, where she does crazy magic again, and you're like, okay, well, that's kind of like the Nockmaar thing. And then you have her training with Willow. And so it's sort of the same thing, where it's like, well, so what is her arc? Like... Where because we kind of like go. Also, I was really actually excited when she dropped Finn Razel's wand in the soul, like to sacrifice. I was like, that's obstacle. A big. Wow, what a great thing to do, to say there's this magical artifact that they've been saving and keeping secret, and it's the thing that you need, and you just lost it to save your friend, and that's, what are you gonna do now? That's great. And then they went down onto the creme brulee and she literally stepped on it, and you're like, oh, okay, I got the wand back. And I'm like, oh man, come on. Like, if you're gonna do something bold like that, do it. And then say, oh, Elora Danan never needed the wand. Elora Danan doesn't do magic the way that Willow thinks she should do magic, or that anybody. Elora Danan is magic. And if she just trusts herself, that would be the thing. And then along trusting yourself, I actually, and I didn't say this with Kit, but it applies to both of them. So I'm sitting here and I'm kind of like, oh God, I really feel like we've lost the thread. I'm not really enjoying this. And you get to that final moment, right? They get to the edge of the Shattered Sea, and it looks like they've gotten to the edge of the earth, and everyone has lost faith. And she reveals that she knows the prophecy, and she knows that she's supposed to die, and she has her whole big moment. And then her and Kit, like, look, this is all like, whoever came up with this clearly has done therapy. I mean, like, this is all, you have to sort of face your fears. You have to embrace your fears. You have to accept your fears. And then you have to take that leap off the ledge where you don't know what's going to come next. And that is so true to life. In a fantasy world, you literally leap off the edge. In real life, you just take giant risks and you don't know what's going to happen. But I thought where they got to with both Kit and Elora Danan embracing each other and making this leap of faith was just a great moment. It was well written. It was well acted. It was gorgeous. And that also just frustrates me even more, that the road to getting there was so bumpy and rocky and not as smooth as it could have been.
You mean taking big chances, like starting a YouTube channel and making sure you can make a living out of it? I hear what you're saying, Michael Vogel. Taking the big chances in life.
That would be one of them.
Sure. But no, yeah, I agree. I think so too. There's such great stuff being done. And I agree with you, Shannon, too, that I think her acting has really come on over the last 2 episodes. We've seen her do really well. So much so that where I thought Tony Revolori was having kind of the upper hand in their back and forths, she kind of assumed the upper hand in 6 and 7 in the back and forths, which I thought was nice. They were on the same level going back and forth about these conversations, which I thought was great. And so, and even Ruby Cruz, I think, well, I think Ruby doesn't 100% get there 100% of the time. Certainly that scene with them where they're looking at each other and having that kind of interaction. I was like, oh man, why would you frame it this way? This is odd. You're really exposing the limits of what they can do. Why not just go close up on this? So I had issues with some of the direction. And to answer your question, Shannon, each 2 episodes are directed by a different person. So the first 2 different person, 3 and 4 different person, 5 and 6, and now 7 and 8 are the same person. So that's how it's been done. But it also feels like they're writing. It feels like a bunch of adults writing teenagers. Like that's what it feels like, that they don't quite get it. And I get that they're going that teenagers change their feelings, change their emotions. I get it. But with a story, you've got to do something a little more consistent. And at times with Elora Danan, it feels like the first time you try to drive a clutch down the road, it just a lot of stopping and starting and stopping. And you're like, well, no, you've mastered it. Let's move on to the next thing, and it just is a little frustrating when you see it all play out. What about, well, there's not much with Boorman. If we want to tackle the Boorman stuff, I'd rather deal with Willow. Unless do you want to, real quick, let's talk. Okay, fine. Real quick, we'll talk the Boorman stuff. Boorman certainly coming in. There's a story here with him and Mad Mardigan. What is the truth? Him wanting the Chimera cuirass, certainly that comes a thing. Alagash reveals that it was Boorman who was the page of Mad Mardigan and turned on him. Boorman says it was Alagash who turned on him. So we have that back and forth. And then Boorman in episode 7 on the Shattered Sea getting involved here it actually kind of recedes to the background here. Even when the Gales come after him, Boorman is the one who does have that fight on top of that carriage, for lack of a better term. But in the end, it's more Elora Danan and Graydon who take care of business in that whole situation there. So what did you think about Boorman there? It sounded like, Michael, you wanted to chime on this one first. Go ahead.
Well, he was shirtless in episode 7, so that automatically made the episode better for me. But no, I mean, I think it's like, he is so good. He's so good at delivering a joke. Mm-hmm. So he, for like most of the series, has been sort of the sarcastic, like, I'm just going to act like I don't really care. But then we see that he really does think that he's the one that is worthy of the Chimerian cuirass, apparently. But like the whole thing with Alagash being like, oh, Boorman was the one who betrayed him, like none of it really lands because again, it's just different choices needed to be made. Like if Boorman for the entire, and I don't know that they should have done this necessarily, because I do think he's a really good comic relief. Yeah. But if Boorman had been more like, I was Mad Mardigan's guy, I'm the hero of this story, and then Alagash tried to like, or if they played him the other way, that like we really thought he was shifty, and we did believe Christian Slater, but Christian Slater was so shifty and Boorman is so jokey that like I was like, okay, I don't really know where this is going to go, and I don't really know that it matters. And then this whole thing that they were doing in episode 7 where he now has the armor and the what do you call
Lux
it?
Arcana.
Lux
that
Arcana,
one. And he does, and like he's like, well, now's not the time, and then like it's like it having the thing that you need to be the big hero, and then your big bads show up to attack you, which what was going on and why they were pretending to be an old man, or what the hell was going on.
The Gales?
The Gales, I still don't quite know what went on in that whole scene. But like, these are the big things that have been chasing you. And he's like, maybe not time for the armor. And I'm like, So just the whole thing, again, I'm just sort of like, it's a bunch of good ideas that are sort of all over the map.
Well, I think Julian Glover can check another box off franchise, another franchise. For God's sakes, even at his old age. I thought he was doing great. I liked his accent. I thought that character was going to.
He did great, and the character was super interesting. Like I was like, okay, this is all cool, but it seems to me like maybe that either he so he was standing there talking. And then Graydon looked and saw another version of him walking behind, and then all of a sudden realized that something wasn't right and knocked him out, and then the Gales were there. And I was like, so was the bird lady pretending to be the old guy? Or like, what was going on? And this has happened a few times in the show where you're like, okay, a thing just happened.
Right. Also,
I'm not quite clear on what happened.
If the trolls have Elora in, that's the thing with the crone it just is frustrating on the villain side of thing too. Is like the crone is just has a bunch of avatars throughout this entire series, and we don't really have the crone like in a room somewhere, in a place somewhere, coming up with these plans, coming in like there's just kind of this thing they talk about that occasionally comes through every once in a while. And they've really got to pay it off in this finale to make that an effective decision to do with your main villain through an entire series where you barely see the main villain at all. And everyone else who is evil is in service of this main villain, but we don't really see the main villain. So Shannon, what do you want to say about Boorman and how they handled his stuff throughout these 2 episodes?
I mean, my opinions on what my opinions on what doesn't make the show work changes from week to week. But this week I'm all in on the comedy. I'm like, he's great at delivering a joke, but what is the more interesting character choice? Like if you have this guy who's filled with shame, like he left his knight. He was a squire. He had one job and he didn't do it. And it's all about his redemption. Like, I think that makes for a more interesting arc. And you can still get some jokes. You're not going to get jokes in the way we have them now, because in this version, he's the rogue. I mean, he's a little Han Solo-y. But it just doesn't quite work. And to what you were saying, John, about the crone being sort of this faceless, villainous presence, my guess right now is that the crone is going to end up being like Galactus in Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Oh, God.
That, like, it's clear that Airk is embodied by the crone right now, and whenever they defeat him, he's going to belch some smoke, and that was a crone. There they go. I could be wrong, but also to the Julian Glover, who I love, and love the fact that Walter Donovan popped up in the show. Watching him, I'm like, who? Some of the costume choices that they've made, starting with Hannah Waddingham being in her Lee dungarees in the forest, followed by Kevin Pollak's brownie daughter wearing a graphic T-shirt from Hot Topic, and now we got Julian Glover dressed up like the Gordon's Fisherman. I'm like, some of these these choices are confounding and a little lazy.
And why is Alagash covering up one eye when he can see with two eyes? So for 10 years, he has played with depth perception. There's a lot of questions on this. Yeah.
But that did lead into a fantastic action sequence. Like the Mudlander, the water buggy. I'm like, that is awesome. Like that was such a fantastic sequence. The whole thing with Boorman, I got to wait for the right time. I got to wait for the right time. It's like, that makes no sense.
Yeah. It makes sense. And just sort of we can't have him use it until later. It makes sense, but it doesn't organically make sense. Yeah.
No, I mean, you have to find a reason for him not to. There has to be something needs to happen versus, well, no, I don't get to look like as big a badass as I'm going to later. That's just sort of the standard of what the show has been. Like there are just confounding choices being made, and there's some really great choices being made. It's really frustrating.
Let's take one more break and we'll jump into Willow and Airk and wrap up the review right after this.
Why don't you use this theme music other than once or twice?
Okay. Shannon, swing back to you. Willow, very confusing situation in 6 and 7 here. He's caged, has the back and forth with Alagash. Then he's a part of this fighting off the troll situation. I thought him using his magic exhausted him, but apparently not.
Nope. Apparently not so much.
It exhausts him when the story needs for him to be exhausted.
Exactly. So we see his whole part in all of this, and then of course they escape and they're on the, and he is really just kind of shoved to the background as just a trainer for Elora Danan. But when they have their training sequences and sessions, he's actually giving her good advice. He's actually saying the things that he needs to say to get her to focus. He's besting her in most of the training, as a mentor is supposed to do, so that you can get better. And then she accesses the crone and hits him, but he's the one that says, you've got to do this. You've got to finish out this quest. We've got to do this kind of thing. Then he has this vision of his daughter, this vision of him, the guilt he feels from what happened in Willow. And then we end the movie, and then we end up at that waterfall, and he's now wanting to turn back, and I don't want to see it through. And Elora Danan is the one that has to be like, the crone is messing with you, when Willow just said 5 minutes ago in the show that the crone is going to mess with Elora Danan to make her not want to finish the mission. So much confusing stuff going on with the guy who is the titular name of the show. So what are your thoughts on this, Shannon?
Well, and it's also not helped by the fact that Warwick Davis is an inconsistent performer.
You are harsh on poor Warwick, but all right. Alas, Warwick.
Even with the really, really good actors, the story speed bumps that they have, it's apparent in the performance. And he didn't really he didn't bother me in either of the episodes, really. I mean, it was fine. It was like, this is what the show is going to be. I thought he had some really nice moments in the training.
Yeah.
And I thought that moment that he had with Mims, I was like, oh, this is actually really, really good. So him wanting to turn back, for me, that didn't bump me, because I'm kind of like, okay, he's now being presented with his daughters in mortal danger. They've gone as far as they can go.
But he's supposed to know what the Cronin can and can't do. So why would
I think he's supposed to know in sort of in the whole, but when you are personally affected by something, that can cloud your judgment. And I think that's what happened. I think that was probably their intention.
Right.
Sure. But the whole thing, and again, this has less to do with his performance. This is more of just the writing. I don't think there's going to be any big payoff to him saying, "Oh, I'm not this great sorcerer. I'm not this great sorcerer," because we've literally seen him vaporize people. Yeah. So it's like, that just doesn't track. That we've seen you do some incredible magic that has saved the day more than once. Some of it is very taxing to you, some of it not so much. Yeah. So to highlight this moment of, I'm not this great sorcerer, more than once, I don't feel like that's coming. I don't feel like that's coming back. And again, I think that's a big flaw in the writing.
Mikey?
I could be wrong about this, but what it feels like is when they pitched this show, the creators were really into the idea of, hey, Willow tricked Bavmorda. He's not some amazing sorcerer, but now the legend is that he's this great sorcerer. Right. So when these kids have to go on this journey, they go to the legendary sorcerer, and the arc of the show is he's doing his it looks like he's a great sorcerer, but then at the end we find out that he's not that great and he didn't really do anything, but he still did what he does in the first movie, which is he got everybody there. Like, Willow's strength is not in being a sorcerer, it's in he's the one that gets you to the end of the line. He's the guy that's going to get you there no matter what. And I think that the executives were like, yeah, but it's Willow, he's got to do magic. And that this is sometimes what happens. You get like an intention of a story, and then you get executive notes and studio notes and everything, and you end up with this mishmash where they sort of kept the idea that he isn't really the greatest sorcerer. So like, it just gets so confusing. Sorcha says in the second episode, you're not a great sorcerer. You're like, oh, that's fucking harsh. But then you kind of get to the Nockmaar episode again, and it's revealed to everybody that Willow didn't really do amazing magic, but then everybody seems to sort of forget about it and doesn't bring it up. Yeah. And then you get to this point, then you get to episode 7, where after saying he can't do magic, and when he does magic, it completely wipes him out and his poor body can't handle it, he is dueling with Elora Danan for apparently months.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I'm like sitting and watching what he's doing with Elora Danan, and I'm like, well, if you had done that at any point during the season, you would have really gotten us out of some jams, buddy. Yeah. But then he gets to the end and he's like, I'm not really great at all, and I've not, and you're like, okay, so just decide one. Just pick one. Yeah. Are you a great sorcerer who is afraid that if you take Elora Danan to her fate, she's going to die, and after what happened to your family, you don't want to put her through that, so you're really conflicted? Or are you the guy that really wasn't the greatest sorcerer in the world, but the stories have made you bigger than you are, and you feel like you need to fill those shoes, but you can't really fill those shoes? Right. Pick one of them, but you actually can't do both of them at the same time.
Yeah, they run in counter to each other for sure.
They're both good stories. Like, yes, they're both good stories. Like, either one of those. Willow being this great sorcerer, and he's really, like, made a name for himself, but Elora Danan is like, you're the one to train me, and he's super, like, I don't want to do it, and you don't know why, and then you find out, and you're like, oh, because, like, his wife died. Like, you could have made that a beautiful story. Or, and I think this is the better story, given what they've done with Elora Danan and the others, is everyone thinks I'm amazing, and I'm not that great, and I've kind of been, like, just getting by, but this is now when shit is real. Maybe I'm not the guy to take you into it. I think is a great story, but like, they're kind of like just jumping back and forth between the two, and it gets very, very, like, I don't actually know what Willow's arc is, right, because those two things work in conflict with each other.
And you're just now bringing the daughter in after like 4 episodes or 5 episodes or 4 episodes we haven't seen her, so it's just kind of weird as well. But I see now why you like Last Jedi, because that former description is very much Luke's journey in The Last Jedi, what you were saying. Yeah. So yeah, like reluctant to train, and you find out why. All right, one last thing. Let's hit the Airk storyline real quick. I mean, what a way to collect a paycheck. I'm just going to sit here at this castle for about 6 episodes and hang out, occasionally do a few scenes. But now finally they get something active. He's been resisting the crone the whole time. He's walked the length of this immemorial city multiple times. Apparently, it's all in a circle. It isn't until Lily shows up, who is played by one of the actresses who played one of the Sand sisters in Game of Thrones, which I think she's good, really good in this role. Nice back and forth between both of them. He eventually gives in. We essentially feel that she's the crone, but he does eventually give in after one last walk around Immemorial City, and he shows up right at the end when Kit and Elora Danan show up to Immemorial City, to those doors there where he was just at, and he walks out with a new haircut, new uniform, and a new look on his face, clearly taken over by the crone. So, Mikey, your thoughts on the Airk storyline, and then Shannon right after that.
I feel like what they did in episode 7 would have been great had it been spread over 5, 6, and 7. I think having one scene where you're like, you know, I guess the tail end of 6, where you're like, oh, who's this person that I haven't met yet? And then she's like, hey, I don't want anything to do with you. You're trying to make out with me, guy. And then the next scene, she's like, I'm really sorry. You're way better than I thought you were. You're actually really nice. Let's make out. And then the next scene is, by the way, I'm the one who's been trying to change you this whole time. And I'm like, that is a lot for 3 scenes in 1 episode. Like,
I'm not gonna lie to you, that feels like one of my dates in my 20s. But go ahead, yes, go ahead, yes.
I was with you in your 20s, and I can attest that was like some of your dates. But no, I just think that. But I just think that, like, you know, I mean, first of all, like, this girl had a giant neon sign over her head from the get-go saying, I'm the bad guy. But had you actually had this feel more like, well, and had them try and put together why the crone might have wanted the princess from Kashmir, or, like, you know, whatever it was, like at least try and sell us on it a little bit, and at least give us a reason why she went from... I mean, ultimately the reason is she's trying to manipulate him, but, like, give us a reason on the surface why you went from, I don't want anything to do with you, you horny prince, to kiss me passionately. Like, it just happened so fast and so suddenly that, again, like I was saying earlier, it just feels like they had a good idea and then they were like, oh shit, let's do it all in this episode. Mm-hmm. And when you do it all at once like that, you're just, again, you just get this whiplash of like, wait, what is happening with these characters? So, like, our main characters, we had like this slow burn in the first half of the season where we weren't really getting them where we wanted to get them. So they had to have these big fights and these big turns in the last few episodes. And then Airk was kind of gone. You could have been tracking this Airk story from the end of episode 2 on if you wanted to. And really kind of made the two of them, like, had Lily shown up earlier and the two of them had, like, set out together and come back, and she had lost hope and he had been like, no, we've got this. Like, there's so much you could have done to sort of build this relationship and then reveal she's the crone, and it would have been way more satisfying than going from, hey, new girl that I've never met before, and it's the second to last episode. Oh, okay, you're the bad guy. Oh, okay, Airk got a haircut and now I guess he's going to fight his sister and the girl he loves.
Right. And the actress is Rosabell Laurenti Sellers, so just want to give her some props there. And let's not forget, Julian Glover's character Zeb mentions being from Kashmir as well. So, but then that's a Gale, I think. So it's just really confusing with how Kashmir is kind of weaved into this episode, but then we're not sure where it's all leading to. Shannon, your thoughts on this whole situation with Airk and what goes on with him throughout these 2 episodes here? Dempsey Bryk being the actor here, what he was able to do, and then also how they took the storyline and made it the crone situation that he comes out at the end there fully converted.
It's leading to season 2. It's leading to season 2.
So you think there's no ending in the next episode where he is like fully healed and blah, blah, blah? You think it's going to carry over?
I mean, the thing that I have felt as we have reviewed these episodes, that there is no end. It is just going to keep going. No, I think this is probably a one and done. No, I mean, the actor, he's fine, but I do agree with Vogel. I think there were opportunities to make his journey a little more interesting, starting with sprinkling him in earlier. Yeah. And because you know, you have these 2 kids of this great hero. One feels that her father picks everyone else. I feel like the son, there is a less than feeling. Like, I'm never going to be the hero that my dad was.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
And I think if you present Lily more as a little bit of a damsel in distress, that he wakes up in this city, he sees this, you know, this gal being chased down by monster, whatever. He saves her. Yeah. And it's like, hey, I don't know you. This is who I am. This is who I am. We have to figure out how to get out of here together. And you see this journey, this relationship being built. And then by the end, when he's really torn, like my love for Dove or my new feelings for this person who really gets me, like understands me in a way that no one in my family does. We find out that she's actually the one pulling the strings and she needs him for, you know, reasons. I feel like I think that's probably a more interesting and a more useful way to use the character.
I think that's a great point, Shannon. Like, the crone maybe shows him her point of view in all of this. They take a chance to give you a villain that is 3-dimensional and having their point of view. And you can kind of see why Airk might believe her point of view, might see her point all because his feelings of being understood by her, cared by her, his first time feeling actual love rather than just hooking up with a bunch of the women from the kingdom, that is confused in all of this, which happens to young people, male or female, all the time, or however you identify, all the time. So I think that could have really worked. That's an excellent point. So that when he does turn evil, it's almost tragic rather than just, oh, he was just at the end and he was tired and he fine, let's do it. You know, you would have made it more interesting, I think, to play it that way. That's an excellent point. Yeah, I think I think the ball's been dropped pretty hardcore on Airk. I would like to have seen more than just him wandering in Memorial City for 5 episodes. It would have been nice to see a little bit more here with him and what he's struggling with, maybe grappling with remembering the conversations with his dad, maybe somehow having some stuff with his sister, some flashbacks, something with him, so we get more layers to him rather than just him sitting around waiting for something to happen, and then it finally does, and he gives in. And of course, we'll see how that pays off in the next episode for sure. All right, so any final words on this, or shall we wrap it up here? Episode 6 and 7.
I was just talking to my parents about my parents just binged 2 seasons of For All Mankind in 3 days. Wow. And they're obsessed with it. And we were talking about Yellowstone because I had just watched 1883 and I started 1923. And we were just talking about good storytelling. And one of the things I was saying about both Yellowstone as an overall series, all the pieces of it, and For All Mankind is, a show is really good when the creator has an overall main idea. It's just like when you write a term paper in school, you're like, what's the main idea? And For All Mankind, the main idea of that show is the world is better when we explore. Space travel makes everything better. The need to explore is good for everything. And with Willow, it just seems like the main idea got a little muddied. It seems like there was this intention to be the characters that lived the storybooks were never quite as perfect as you thought they were. Yeah. We are all living in the shadow of this Willow, Sorsha, Madmartigan story that happened, but the reality is a little bit more messy. And now we are this new generation of heroes trying to live up to the storybook, but we are also messy. And that being a hero is actually messier than this amazing flowery fairy tale thing is an overall a really good main idea. And I think when Willow works, it's leaning into that idea. Mm-hmm. But then there's something that constantly pulls them back out of that idea, and it doesn't quite get executed. So it's what we keep saying. When we talk about these episodes, I kind of am oh yeah, that part was really good. Oh, I love that. That was a great idea. Oh, Shannon had a good fix for that. Oh, Rocha was right about that. And so there's a lot of good there, and there's a lot of goodwill because it is this earnest story that's trying to be told. I just wish it was being told better.
Fair enough. Michael, Shannon, rather, any final words on these 2 episodes?
That.
I'll echo that as well. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review for episode 6 and 7 of Willow. I think we peppered in the things we do find interesting and we do enjoy about it, even though we've been critical through a majority of the episode. I think they will also find the moments to tell you things that we do like. So when you're leaving your comments down below, be aware, make sure you factor that in your mind. We were positive about certain things, but we're honest with our criticism of things we didn't like as well. So, Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media and leave us nice comments, it's at geek_buddies on Instagram, at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media and leave me a nice comment on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, it's Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel and tear him apart, it's at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha and give him a piece of your mind, it's at The Rocha Says.
Oh yeah, that's new. What else do we have to say?
Look, if you like leaving us any kind of comments, you leave the comments you want to leave. We will respond. We will get back to you. And by the way, if you love these episodes, let us know below. Let's talk about it. Let's dive in. I am into it, and I'm ready to have those chats. And in the meantime, what you can do is smash this like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, check out all the content he's got going on there. If you're listening to us on a podcast, go ahead and leave us some stars and some comments. It helps us go up in the rankings so more people can find us. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you you go. All right. Thank you all so much. And a big thank you to Carbon Health, who continues to power and sponsor us on the Geek Buddies into 2023. Head on over to carbonhealth.com to get checked out today. If you've got any healthcare questions, concerns, or needs, they got in-person care, virtual care. They got 100 plus clinics all over the country, 80 plus in California alone. And they want to help you create a personal healthcare plan for yourself so you can be in the best shape possible and keep living for many, many years to come and enjoying the Geek Buddy shows for many, many years to come. Or you can download the app to have a dock in your pocket if you like to work it that way, so you can find out where those clinics are or any virtual care that you want to get right there through your phone. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well. Remember, we dropped our Bad Batch episodes 1 and 2 from season 2 spoiler review earlier this week and our main show earlier this week. So if you haven't watched either of those, go back and watch those or listen to those. We would appreciate it. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well. Have a great weekend. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review episode here from the
Geek
Buddy.